The Skoda Karoq in our full driving review today on Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews and your #1 community to discuss cars. Today with me, with Thomas. We're going to take a detailed look on the exterior, the interior and the driving experience with this new compact SUV, which could be one of the new bestsellers from Skoda. Especially the variety in the interior will be very exciting, I can already tell you so far. And we're in Sicily here today, so best shout out to our Italian fans. And I will obviously take some Italian driving lessons on the road today. Also look forward to that. Of course, everything together we'll enjoy in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go! A very strong front with the characteristic Skoda front grille and also this power dome on top of the logo. Optional, you can also get full LED headlights as we see them right now. This vehicle is equipped with the trim level style, however also has some options. Then in the lower part, more an off-road look. For the side profile you have two possibilities, I will soon show you that. And the color we see here today with our main vehicle is steel grey, but I've also shown you already some other color variations in our static exterior shots. Tell me which color you found best so far. 4.38 meters or 14'4" is the length of this compact SUV. You know there's already the bigger one, the Skoda Karoq, this one the bigger brother of this one here. Platform is here MQB A1. And that means it's a sibling basically of the Seat Ateca, for example. And well, the price is a little bit higher, 24,000 euros is the entry price in Germany. The Seat Ateca and also the Volkswagen T-Roc, they are a little bit less expensive. This one here of those three offer most interior space. You can really compare it already with the Tiguan, although the Tiguan is actually then priced again a little bit higher. So the Skoda vehicles inside the Volkswagen Corporation siblings, they're always, something in between those model lineups, usually with a little bit more interior space especially. The rims, they reach basically from 16 to 19 inch. This one here, 18 inch, I think a good choice. In this case also, the wheel arches are painted in vehicle color. It is also possible to have the plastic fenders, the black one, to have a more rugged off-road look also around the wheel arches. And I think I would actually prefer that. You've seen that on some static shots on the exterior, because when there's this black plastic around here, around the wheel arches, it more really looks like a true SUV. Or what's your stance on that? Then, more form follows function in the side profile. Dropping line dividing in light and shadow right here, depending on your side. Just above the door handles, everything looks really solid and sharply designed. But we all can see here, we don't lose too much interior space by that. Also, the rear here of the window is not too flat, so this leaves some speculations of what room we'll have on the interior. Of course, we will come soon to that. What do you think about the overall styling of the Karoq? Now taking a look at the rear, well, it is somewhat Golf. Every Golf platform, MQB platform vehicle looks a little bit like this from the rear. It's not necessarily bad, it's just not very exciting. However, the exciting feature here are those taillights. When you look at them in detail, they have this glass craftsmanship look, and this is also something special, unique feature for Skoda. I think it's also good that they carried them out over here also for the Karoq. So to open the hatch, I can either use the button below the logo or press it on the key button, or I can also use this foot opening mechanism right here. And it's really good that those mechanisms nowadays work pretty flawlessly. And here we go, 520 liters, a standard setup. And when we flip all the seats and stuff, we can maximum get 1,800 liters, and that's really a lot. Really square dimensions, and we also got some clever features here inside. For example, you see those small sample bags. They are actually held tight by those small devices, and you can fold them, and you see they can be sticked to the ground, and then they just form a corner, for example, right here, a small corner, and then smaller stuff is really held tight that it doesn't flip around. Maybe you visited grandma and she got you some great food and you want to carry that around, for example. Also, this floor mat here can be switched to the other side. The other part is from rubber. You can get that one, that you can wipe it clean. Then on the sides you have those hangers. You can also adjust them where they should actually be placed. Then you have a small torch right here. You can also use that one, just demount it. And the only thing is, I cannot find anything to flip the seats directly from here. So this is one disadvantage. So I have to go around here and then flip the seats from here. But I can tell you there's more to come about flipping the seats, because those ones here are the so-called VarioFlex seats, and they offer you really amazing possibilities. However, I would enjoy also if there's a mechanism to flip the seats right there from from the rear trunk. That would be good. However, here it's also not too hard. There we go. And this top part here, well, it's good that this cover is actually directly mounted. You could also easily demount it, but that way, I mean, it always closes and opens as you use the hatch. But of course, you can access more of that very soon. So what about demounting this here? It's actually pretty easy. And then you can really almost do it just with one hand, and that's always speaking for a system that it's so easy. Now you can really enjoy that one here in a full scale, how we can use the luggage compartment. One thing, unfortunately, it's not easily possible to flip the whole front seat. You can push it a little bit forward, then turn it just with this turning knob. But that's basically it. So I like cars which have this lever where you can directly flip the seat totally forward, that you can load through even longer things. And what about safety when we close the hatch? What Newton meter? Whoa, that's a little strong. Well, we had that with several MQB SUVs so far. Obviously, they didn't learn yet. So this could definitely be improved for safety. So what about this so-called VarioFlex system, which you can go optionally for? In that way, and this is one of the most spectacular features of this vehicle, you can flip the seat forward. Actually, you can do that with all three seats, like this, with the same with this seat, and then you can release those red levers in the lower part, and then you can actually directly take out the seat. So that's it. Then you can put it somewhere and you have some more room. However, it's also possible to do another setup, because if we just remove the middle part here, that's a little bit tricky right now. let's see, like this and this. There we go. It is somewhat heavy, so better to do it with two people, or, you know, if you're not holding a microphone, for example. That's also an advantage, definitely. So, and then you see we have even more space right here. And the funny thing now is, well, I could actually demount the third seat, but there's also another possibility. If I flip it up as well, like this, and then I unleash it at the lower part, so, and then I can actually move the seat more inward and put it back again. Yeah, so better with two hands. There we go. So, and now this seat is placed a little bit more inward, and I'll do the very same thing now with the other outward seat. So, and what do we have then here now? We have basically an exclusive setup for the rear, because we now basically have two single seats. They are a little bit more inward. That means I have more shoulder room now on both sides, actually. Also, you can see that, you know, the seats, they have some distance to the outside of the inside of the vehicle then. And of course here you can just move around more freely. That's a big advantage, and if you're traveling with four people and you don't really need a middle seat, then I think it's a really nice option. You can also reach better through, for example, through the luggage compartment, for example. So to have this option, actually, great stuff. Isofix, by the way, on the outer seats. So you could also use this, for example, for two child seats, and also as a parent you are able to move around more freely here in the rear, also installing child seats, putting them out again, and so on. And now to the normal setup back again for the rear compartment. This is when everything is back to the standard. Knee room, still some left if you have four adults here, and considering the length of the vehicles, that's really totally okay. Headroom, 6'1" or 1.86 m. Still plenty left. When you have the panoramic roof, that will be a little bit less. You have those holders also here for iPads, for example, for the rear seat entertainment. That's possible. Then the middle part here, you can also just flip down to have cup holders on the back part. So this is, but again, when I compare it now, as we had this single seat setup, it was way more spacious, the whole feeling we had here. What is actually really good is the whole system, how it works here with those seats. Well, sometimes you have to use those straps then with two hands. Like this. And the good thing is you can adjust the angle. So maybe if I want to sit a little bit more, upright, I maybe do it like this. Put up the head restraint, or if I want to go to sleep, I just put it further in the back and then have a more relaxing position, so you can actually adjust it. Also, when you think about, not driving with so many people here, and then you can, or maybe with just children, you can also move the bench forward or backward again. At the moment, I've just moved it backward because otherwise I couldn't really properly sit here, but to show you the difference, it's like this. So there's like the difference where I can move it backward and forward, and so you can also very easily adjust the trunk you have in the rear and the space you have in the front. So the Seat Ateca does not have that. The Tiguan does have that, and the Karoq also receives this flexibility. And in the lower part here of the rear compartment, you can also get a real plug, for example, charging your laptop. However, it's not too much space around here, so with the MacBook chargers could be a little bit problematical. And 12-volt power supply and another USB supply for the rear passengers. This is the standard key, we know it from other vehicles, and also we got the independent heating here. This is surely a feature you can, well, leave out to save money, unless you're, for example, in Sweden. Then solid door handles and a sort of door closing sound. Inside of the doors, nice build quality, soft material right here. Then this aluminum look. Here the Canton audio sound system, pretty good sound as well. Then there's a lot of room on the inside of the doors, also for example for bigger bottles. And there's a steering wheel, easy design. This one should be a little bit better from a build quality, because you could push it inward a little bit. I realized while driving it's fixed on the right part, but maybe the very early models, they should check that again. Everything else is really good from the building process. Then memory seats, 3 different functions. Those ones are the optional Alcantara seats, Alcantara on the inside, and unfortunately here already in the Alcantara combination, the inside is microfiber and the outside, I just talked to the interior designer, is from real animal skin leather. It has no real reason, and the back part of the seat then is from leatherette. I'm not really sure why they didn't put also leatherette on the outside. It's a wrong choice, that's for sure. Seat does it differently, by the way, so I can really recommend only the full fabric seat option. And also not only an ethical but also practical reason. Here you see the real leather part. It's a new car and already looks somehow used, whereas here the leatherette part at the back of the seat still looks good and will also look good for a longer time. However, we also have in the basic setup a lot of different cloth variations, so they do offer sustainable seating solutions. Soon I can also show you some samples of that. And here they are, some different fabric samples. For example, for style and ambition trim level, here you can see there are also different fabric choices available and also different decor elements. You can see it right here, this is one choice. Then there's also a bright choice. I really like that one. When the outside of the seat black, inside bright. Other decor element you can choose too. And then the upper parts here, those ones are from the ambition trim level, here in the dark seat and with some red contrasts. And this one here has this aluminum style. And finally also, the most subtle one, black and just with some white contrast. So you see you have also good individualization choice if you like to go for one special design. Let's get inside. Easy entry. This is the advantage of an SUV. And it is a way more comfortable seating position than, for example, than in a normal sedan or something like that. It's a good overview. Headroom. There's plenty of headroom left. One is 86 or 6'1". And also the seats here, they're a sportier setup. They offer you a lot of shoulder support. As for the climate functions, indeed the cheaper fabric seats are the best one for summer and winter times. They don't get cold in winter times, not so hot in summer. Alcantara is also quite good for that, but the fabric is even better for that. And of course the animal skin, then the worst as for the climate comfort you could possibly have in both summer and winter times. In general, again, you do not need a bigger SUV. You already have this upright seating position and offers you a lot of comfort. The bigger SUV you would rather need when you want to have more space in the rear. So the cockpit overview, everything is pretty clean. The middle part is really powerful. You have this kind of power dome above the infotainment system, soft touch material. Below that, the climate unit. Still a classic way to do it, all manual. And you have to reach down quite far, but it is, not placed like this, but a little bit shallow. You can easily reach that. Infotainment systems, by the way, available 6.5, 8-inch, and here then 9.2, the top one. Also then including the live navigation. Soon more to that. Other than that, we have a glove box right there. You can press this one, normal size. Can also be cooled. Steering wheel is quite compact. I think exactly the right size for that. And today here with a 6-speed manual, there's also a 7-speed DSG available. And also, this rugged look here, right and left, with basically handles you can touch, and also is a little bit soft. It's good when you, for example, hit your knee with it. Well, it's not really soft, but at least a little bit. If you want to remember the name, 6.5 is called Swing, 8 inches called Bolero, optional with the Amundsen GPS, and then this one here, Columbus, the 9.2 inch with the GPS included. You got basically just those 5 capacitive buttons right here, mute, changing the volume, but you can also do it at the steering wheel, unmute it first. Then the home screen, you can set that one individually, how you want to have it. This is at the moment GPS, phone, and the smart link, the smartphone mirroring. Or menu, this is then the app view, which also has this gesture control. Always when you see the small hand, then you can also swipe, for example, the infotainment like this. Works pretty well now here. And the GPS, we've already shown you that, reacts very well, is a very good system, one of the best I know. See, the responsiveness is superb, crystal clear resolution. You just have to clean it from time to time because it does collect fingerprints. You can connect your phone either via Bluetooth, classic style, or also then with this smart link, use the cable and then have the Apple CarPlay or MirrorLink or Android Auto interfaces. So that's basic thing about this infotainment system. Instruments, here the classic analog ones with this retro style, you can really call it that way, just a small digital screen in the middle part. You can also get the new digital gauges optionally, we will also show you them. So this one is the alternative, the digital gauges, fuel cells on the right and the left side the temperature. In the middle one you can have the GPS screen with the speed in the lower right corner. You can zoom in and out on the steering wheel. And then you can also have, for example, the assistance systems here for when you have the ACC monitor, also the driving data when you, for the fuel consumption, vehicle status, also can connect your phone. Here we have Bluetooth. So at some point it's also a little bit redundant. The GPS, of course, is useful as you have it more in your line of sight when you have it in the digital gauges. I mean, it's a system you do not really have to have as for the optional feature. But of course, it gives the car some more modernity and also more tech look, definitely, if you go for this one. And definitely also what we're heading towards in the future. Soon we'll only see those displays in our gauges. Middle console, you can put this one open. 2 USB slots, 12-volt power supply, and this would be for the inductive charging of your phone, if your phone is suitable for that. Electric handbrake. And you can also pick some driving modes. Not that effective with the manual gearbox, more when you have the DSG. The middle armrest is really interesting. You can push it forward, but also backward. Then you have some space in here. Really solid build quality, as always here. Push it up, and then there's really a lot of space on the inside. However, you can also mount this somewhat strange device. Then you have like a tablet, it's a little bit higher, but you can also turn it around. And then you have a little bit looks like from Lego. But what's that for? Well, first of all, that's for the key, for example. And then those knobs on the bottom, when you put a bottle like this, then it gets held tight, and then you can drive and open this bottle with one hand, because there's resistance on the lower part. Cheers. So what's under the hood? No hydraulic struts. So here we have the 1.5 liter TSI Evo, a new engine in the Volkswagen AG, 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine, 1.5 liters of displacement, 150 horsepower, and with cylinder on demand technology, actually the engine I would also go for in this vehicle. There's also an entry petrol engine available, 1 liter 3-cylinder, 115 horsepower, starting with front wheel drive and manual hand drive, optionally also available with DSG. This one here is available both front wheel drive, manual hand drive, but also with the automatic gearbox. and also available with all-wheel drive. Then there's diesel side, 1.6 liter diesel, 115 horsepower, and a 2 liter diesel with 150 horsepower or 190 horsepower. The top one always combined with DSG and all-wheel drive. In general, almost for every engine you can really pick between, real hand shifting, DSG, dual clutch transmission, and also front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. So you have a lot of variation, although there are not so many different engines. But I mean, I always am wondered, why would the manufacturer offer sometimes we see 15 different engines. I think that's just a little bit too much. So I think it's okay if they keep it at a rather basic level. And consumption, you can bring it to 6 liters on 100 kilometers. In our driving part, I'll start with about 7, but later on I can tell you already so far I could bring it down to even 5.9. So this one here really leaves the possibility to go for the petrol engine, have a low consumption, and you do not need a diesel then. And now to the driving part. And you might wonder, what is Thomas doing there? Is he testing the autopilot? Well, this is the test of some of the assistance systems. You can see this active lane keeping assist you can actually get. Of course, this was just for demonstration purposes. Please do not repeat, because if I would keep my hands on the steering wheel, I could not really show you what the car is doing. But the system, how it's meant to work, you have to keep your hands at the steering wheel, but then you're still assisted a little bit, and you do not have to, not pay less attention, but you can be a little bit relieved, less stressful, work on your karma, then you can just, keep onto the steering wheel not so tight and let the assistance systems help you. Also, I have the cruise control running, the adaptive cruise control, which is also available for this vehicle. And that's definitely also a very relaxing feature. So we're starting here with the motorway driving, and one thing I directly realized, it is really silent in here. So they have prepared a very good sound insulation for us, 80 kilometers an hour at the moment, and you hardly hear anything from outside. Although there are pretty strong winds today here. What else do we have in the setup for this vehicle? We have the normal suspension, which I found very important to test, because not everyone will actually go for the optional DCC, the dynamic chassis control. Well, a beautiful landscape here also on Sicily. And then it's always nice to tell you, what about the standard suspension? And it has basically a soft setup, so the vehicle is not too sporty. However, all of the SUVs from the Volkswagen Corporation, or the AG, like Volkswagen, Skoda, Seat, Porsche of course, also Audi, they usually tend to be a little bit sporty, a little bit stiffer in the suspension setup than, for example, the Japanese manufacturer. And again, this is not something about good and bad, it's just something about, what you actually prefer. When I'm doing some slalom here at a little higher speed, you see and maybe feel, that's the only thing I do, but you can see there's a little tilting of the vehicle. So this is also due to the standard suspension. It is sporty enough in a way that you can still have fun with the vehicle, also because it's compact enough. However, if you want it a little bit sportier, then you have to go for the DCC, that you can also set the sport mode, and then it would be a little bit stiffer from suspension. Also, the DCC helps you in the normal driving mode, that it's a little bit better against potholes. So when we're going over some potholes, we just passed some, it's not entirely bad, but when we tested similar vehicles, also for example, the Skoda Octavia without and with the DCC, it's not an option where we would say you need it, otherwise you are not able to live with this car. There's a white Karoq now here. But if you want some more comfort on the one hand, and on the other hand want to preserve the possibility to have a sportier ride, then it would be wise to go for the DCC to spend the money on it. I'm always someone who says, let's give you a realistic view on the car, not with every feature. Too bad. It's not always possible. Manufacturers always want to put everything in the car to show off. But then I'm always dissecting the vehicles and telling you, you can save money by that and this, because not everyone wants to spend so much money just on the car. And this is also something you can also definitely live with a standard suspension. It's perfectly fine. The question is just if you have some spare money, then the DCC is surely a useful option, but not a total must-have. Here now, cruising at 100 kilometers an hour. Again, I can stress it's really silent in here. Also, if you compare it to other competitors in this segment, this one is surely among the leading ones as for the sound insulation. The steering, it's, in the top few angles here, it's a little bit numb, a little bit soft. Then it increases a little bit. However, later on we will also give you a little more agile riding as well. Then I can talk more about the steering characteristics. In general, this steering is rather set up that you don't have any problems when parking in and out. It's really easy to steer. You do not need any power to use that one. Mainly also sought for the city. To me, it's a little bit, of a... Whoa! What the... What the hell? Have you seen that, guys? I'm 100, this is a given speed, I'm on the right lane, and then this freak was like on my lane, although overtaking me. Okay, nothing happened. Back to our review. As always, Autogefühl live on tape for you to give to you the most authentic impressions, and then also interesting things can happen from time to time. So I would have expected from the steering to be a little bit more natural, actually. So I would have wished that would have been a little bit cooler, I guess. Especially because we know those progressive steerings are possible. They have the technology. So I was driving, by the way, in 4th gear all the time now. Although I'm not this kind of super lazy shifting guy, and because the 4th gear was already so silent, I didn't really realize I was still able to shift up, and I can even go in a 6-speed manual gearbox here in the 6th gear, either 6-speed manual or 7-speed DSG, dual clutch transmission. Those two possibilities you have also for this very engine, the 1.5 liter Evo turbo petrol engine, 150 horsepower, and it's actually one of the newest engines, also in the VWs and also for Seat. And this engine is really performing very well. So now, distance is kept to the car in front of us. I'm in the 6th gear now, meanwhile. That makes the car even more silent. And I see this small eco sign with a circle in the middle of the display. And what does that mean? This is the cylinder on demand technology, which is included here in the 1.5 liter petrol engine. And so it's only running on 2 cylinders then, not on 4 cylinders, and that is saving fuel. We recently had that also with the Mazda CX-5, which is also basically a competitor to this one here. And there they decided to, the customer should not really care about that because it doesn't make any sense that customer would know. And then I asked you guys, do you want to have the information when the system is running or not? And a lot of you guys said, yes, I would like to know. And in the digital cockpit of the Golf facelift, for example, we also saw that. And here, this is the car with the analog instruments, which is also perfectly fine. Digital gauges, I think, also something you can save money on. You do not have to go for that. And then there's just this small eco sign, and especially when cruising with a steady speed on the motorway, then this one is active. Now as we go a little bit uphill, what's going on here? It's like, anyone from our viewers from Sicily, can you explain us where and how people learn to drive here? But maybe I'm just, too German about that, I don't know. So, at the moment, going slightly uphill, the eco sign is basically cut off. But as soon as we go downhill again a little bit, then it will be activated again, and I know that the cylinder on demand will be active. Now back to the 4th gear. I can also show you some acceleration. But before that, let's take a look at the consumption when we were basically just cruising. And that is 7 liters on 100 kilometers. It could be a little bit lower. With the Golf facelift, what did we have again? Was it 5? I think we could score about 5.5 liters, if I remember correctly. However, you have to think about the Golf is also more, it stands better in the wind. So this one here, as an SUV, is like a cube moving against the wind. And so the Golf definitely has an advantage over that. So, but this 7 liters you can actually score. But I'm afraid, as it seems to be when we accelerate, this will be even more than. So obviously we cannot expect a low consumption. So let's go back to the 3rd gear, start with, here it says, by the way, also when you're in the average consumption mode, and it also says 2-cylinder mode. Interesting. So they've solved that to give the customer information. Now at 80 kilometers an hour, straight road now, let's just accelerate out to 120 or so, then you know how the acceleration is on the motorway. Let's go. 90, 100, and 120. That was just in the 3rd gear, by the way. And of course it's not the most explosive engine, but you see you have enough power also on the motorway. And this will be a big difference also to the entry-level petrol engine, which, I would not exactly recommend for the size of the vehicle, especially when you drive fully loaded. However, as this engine is basically very evolved and also has the cylinder-on-demand technology, I'm not exactly sure if the diesel would be necessary. Depends, of course, on how long you drive with the vehicle per year. But I think this one here, especially when you, for example, combine it with the DSG, is a very nice combination for this Skoda Karoq. So now driving even a little bit faster, 120, and still remaining very silent, also very stable on the road. So I think the best things to take away from the motorway driving so far is noise insulation, calmness of the suspension, even if it's just the standard one. From the shifting, it's really smooth, flawless. You don't feel any resistance when shifting, for example. You have good control over the car. What I would definitely wished is to have a little bit more direct steering. That would be a little bit more pleasing to me. That's on the negative side. And just from cruising on the motorway, I would have expected a little less consumption already. So we have to get off here. I hope so. But that's also a good way to test the dynamic driving capabilities here. And then when I'm here in this, when I mastered the first numb angles of the steering, then I get a better feeling of the car. Also good and stable in the corners. Those potholes, probably you heard it on camera, those potholes are better mastered than if you have the DCC. This is, one of the differences. So, now to the left, can give you some other driving impressions beside the motorway. It's always very important. Also, this is front wheel drive. Let's give it some power on the front wheels and accelerate it. It's 40, 55. So pretty easy to accelerate, definitely. Also very silent, even if you put some RPMs. So well insulated the engine as well, also from the passenger compartment. I think they have done really a very good job there. Well, we do have some driving modes, and we can also put it in eco driving mode. Nice visualization on the screen, I showed you that earlier, but it makes more sense if you have the DSG combined. So then the characteristics of the automatic gearbox are applied differently. This eco mode then helps you that the sailing, this coasting function is activated, for example. Here with the manual gearbox you do everything by shifting yourself mainly. But let's just go in the sport mode. Here without the DCC it does not change anything from suspension, but it changes the throttle approach just a little bit, right? I think, yeah. Maybe I'll put this, yeah, that's better. I always prefer to drive with the GPS not like north top, but really like you can see where you're going. So here in the sport mode, okay, now it's 50 allowed and I'm driving 55, and some native Italians, let's call them that way, they are already raiding behind me and saying, I want to be Niki Lauda. Let's overtake this boring German guy. Oh, come on. But he is now a controller electronico, so they better not. So here in the sport mode, you have a little bit more resistance in the steering wheel. Again, but here, I mean this one here, like this area, I'm pretty sure they have the technology to solve that. Again, is one small driving flaw I found. However, if you like to have a little bit more resistance from the steering wheel, you can also, if you don't have the DCC, have this drive modes. And in the drive modes then, I think we're allowed to drive a little bit faster. In the drive modes you can then have a little bit more resistance for the steering wheel to, get a little bit more sportier feeling for sure. Throttle input wise, it does not make the biggest difference. If you would have an all-wheel drive car, by the way, you would have another mode, the off-road mode, that is again playing with the throttle input, depending, because on off-road driving you always have to find a good compromise between not too much wheel spin, but then again some wheel spin at some point, because you cannot rule the power all the way down. Interesting overtaking maneuvers here again. Really funny to drive around here. View to the windscreen is, by the way, very panoramic. The rear, for design reasons, they have designed the rear mirror pretty slim, so the view there is somewhat limited, but still perfectly fine. And to the sides, all the windows are rather upright, so you have a good overview in total. And also the size of the vehicle really feels just right. With the Skoda Karoq, it was, considering the size, surprisingly sporty still from the driving characteristics, from the feeling. This one here, of course, you do feel it's a smaller car, but it's totally enough. You still have so much room, as we showed you earlier. And driving-wise, you feel a little bit more comfortable or less annoyed. I mean, if you're driving in Texas or whatever, then maybe you say, I don't care. I have enough room, I have enough space, and I can also... Oh, a small doggy here. There's a necklace around. Hope he's belonging somewhere. It's always too bad when you're seeing homeless dogs on the streets, and when you hit the just guessed as a driving event. I mean, what shall you do? Sometimes it happened that we called some animal shelter organizations or something like that. Once we had the dog I think near Almeria on the motorway. That was really fierce, and called the next animal shelter and asked them, can they do something, and they went looking for them. But it's always, are they still in the same spot then? So it's always for sure very critical. Looking at the GPS while driving, this one here, as I said earlier, 9.2 inch, the biggest version you can get. Of course, helps you looking at it while driving, especially if you do not have the digital instruments. But it's perfectly fine, you don't have to be diverted that much. And those small GPS information you can still get on your digital center screen in the very small cockpit. Just, about the arrows and stuff. It seems to be moving left. And as soon as it gets a little bit narrow on the streets, then you're also really happy to have a compact SUV and not a full-size SUV. I think this compact SUV segment here really makes sense because you can fit a family in here. You can do everything for your hobby. You put bicycle in the back or whatever. But still, you do not exceed the size totally that you would feel stressed in narrow street surroundings, for example, some small LAs and stuff. A lot of Policia here as well. Now again behind us, another small Policia wagon. The Fiat Panda. But maybe policeman is also wondering, wait a minute, it's 30 kilometers an hour speed limit here and this guy is driving 30? That is probably very suspicious. See, now he's already horning me. Exactly what I said. And, well, sometimes it's also, there's a sign, it's like 30. And the question is, where does it end? So in Germany, where we have everything like strict regulations, then there's always like a sign, oh, now the limit is ending, and now there's a new limit. But here it seems like, there's a limit of 30 kilometers an hour at some point, and then who knows when it's ending. But obviously, police officer knows. So I started to pick up the pace again. But I think it has also some character if you care less. Or here, for example, we see a sign now with 20 kilometers an hour, and there's the police just in front of me. Do I say, oh, I don't care, I just drive with 50? It's like driving 20, it's like sleeping. Of course, the police themselves, they didn't care. Now the next Alfisti behind me is horning me with the lights. What should I do? Shall I go against the law? Seems like, So probably one of, I knew some of our very, very long-term fans are also Italian. They probably tell me in the comments now, Thomas, just let go, just drive, don't look at the signs, don't look at anything, just drive, and the police won't tell you anything. You never know. So probably I need some more Italian driving lessons, it seems. So now getting to more countryside area, then we can cover another type of driving, this Skoda Karoq. Again, gives you a very comfortable feeling also on the long-term run with the upright seating position. Also good for tall people. You don't get any back problems, especially not in your lower back. So it's also a great travel mobile. And from the driving feelings I gathered now, it is surely among the best compact SUVs we've driven. I think so, yeah. So not too much to criticize. You really have to search for that. I think maybe the sport mode is to me also a little bit better from the steering wheel. You see, it feels a little bit more natural then. So I would probably go with that mode then. You can also put it in an individual mode, by the way. So it's also possible just to adjust the steering, for example. If you also have the combination with the DSG, with the dual clutch transmission, and you say you don't want the shifting to be changed, you just want the steering wheel to be a little bit stiffer, then you could also adjust that in the individual mode. It doesn't make a difference, front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. This one here, as I said, can also optionally be bought with all-wheel drive. Of course, it makes a difference, but more in slippery conditions. Another police here now. Here now on dry roads, it hardly makes any difference. It always adds weight to a car. So think about the all-wheel drive when you are in off-road situations, maybe in snowy regions, then it makes sense. Other than that, if you're mainly driving in the city and rural areas and stuff, you're also fine with the front-wheel drive and can save the money right there. One assistance system I would always get is, by the way, the blind spot monitor mounted in the side mirrors that flashes when someone is attempting to overtake you. That really makes sense. The front assist, this is a city emergency brake, the autonomous emergency brake, just in case, is from standard equipment, and I think that should be mandatory for all new vehicles. Meanwhile, here it is, so I'm glad it is indeed. So, a lot of different driving impressions. Now it gets a little bit bumpy again. You see that the suspension is evening it out very well. I love that. Again, potholes would be better with the DCC if you have the money to go for it, but you'll also be happy with the normal suspension. Now, for example, I could also theoretically set a DCC to sport mode to have a little bit more support in those corners, but again, also with the normal suspension, it's still fun to drive around here. You can very well control the car. That's, I think, also one of the main characteristics, that you always feel pretty much in control. And I think this is also, something that I've worked on very well, that you have a good compromise between comfort and agility. Here now, also in the situation where you really want to hold on to your steering wheel, it could also be wise to have the DSG, the automatic transmission. Then you don't have to, put one hand off the steering wheel, for example, and go back for the shifting. But as the 1.5 liter engine here is also quite fine in the third gear, I can also accelerate out in the third gear, so that is still working. So, what do you think? I hope you felt like being in the driver's seat yourself today. You can make your conclusion what to do with a Skoda Karoq. And now we are joined by project manager Radek Havlik. First of all, an easy question. I've seen some Karoq today with painted wheel arches, and I've seen this more off-road rugged look with the plastic fenders. So when do you get what?
So this painted you have if you have a front engines on the car, and if you have another version with the Formal 4, you have still this black additional bars on the car. It's so.
That's pretty easy. So if you get the 4x4, the all-wheel drive, then you also get the off-road look. Basically also makes sense. Can you actually also get it optionally if you have a front-wheel drive car and say, I just want to have this look?
Yes, it will be coming also.
Oh, okay, so you have this possibility too. And now maybe taking a look at the bigger scale, maybe if your best friends ask you, hey, I want to buy a compact SUV, why should I get this one and not any other one?
So we have the typical on the Karoq car in the front. You can see there this 4 eyes design with the huge grille in the front of, and it's typical for the Skoda SUVs. And also, if you look at it on the whole car, you can see, okay, it's our Skoda SUVs. It's also similar to the Kodiaq, but it's more compact for the cities and town using.
So what about the features? Because is there any difference, for example, when you say, there are siblings with the Seat Ateca or the Volkswagen T-Roc even, what would be the features where this car also stands out?
So our features typical for Skoda is the space inside the room for the passengers, also for the packages inside. Our cars is very comfortable, including a lot of assistance functions for the drivers. We have a Skoda Connect. We are fully connect always, and we have a lot of simple, clever solutions.
So, for example, which we see in a trunk with small edges where you can actually separate the trunk and something like that.
Yes, exactly. Or for example, if you sit inside and during the drive, open the bottle of the water, you put it in the cup holder and you screw this cover and you can easily open it. And for example, from the outside, if you would like to take on the box which you have in the hand in the coffer, you can just use this kick with the hood and open the rear door, and also you can with the same movement to close it. Very easy, simply clever.
So, Skoda obviously seeks this differentiation in the very tiny detail. Thank you so much for joining us here.
So, thank you too. Have a nice day.
Well, if it's dark and rainy for you at home at the moment, I'm sorry we're coming to the end of our review here from sunny southern Sicily. Really enjoyed the Skoda Karoq here today, and I think we could give you a very good insight of all different aspects that we've covered in exterior, interior and the driving experience. It is definitely one of the hottest competitors in this still surging compact SUV segment. It has basically a compelling exterior, nothing too exaggerating, rather conservative. The interior, a lot of room inside and especially a lot of flexibility and a serious interior build quality. The driving, really also convincing, even though just with a normal suspension, manual hand drive, front wheel drive, is totally fine. So you can also go with the base level model of this very vehicle. We did have some extras here on this vehicle, yes, so you could maybe save some money, for example, with a smaller infotainment system. But again, I think the overall price performance package is really good, something Skoda has always been standing for, and alongside also with some clever cargo solutions we've seen again here today. You can also compare a lot of the competitors we have already reviewed in this very segment. There's an SUV playlist, for example, or just when you're searching a car, use the YouTube search, type in Autogefühl, then the brand name and the model name, and it's most likely you will find an in-depth full review to this very vehicle as well. So, tell me if you liked our review of the Skoda Karoq here today and what you think about this very vehicle. Let's discuss it in the comments. And of course, I hope you'll join us the next time again. Thank you so much for watching.